There are a lot of consumer protection laws that govern the timeshare industry. The timeshare industry has a long and storied history of misrepresenting, uh, defrauding consumers, not doing the right thing as a business. And when that happens, then lawmakers will get involved and they'll put laws on the books, pass laws that kind of get them into a box and kind of force them to do the right thing as it relates to specifics of their industry. Now, I can tell you this: those laws are on the books, but if you go in and look at your contract, they've checked every box for all of those laws, right? So you may recall when you signed that contract, they said a lot of initial here, sign here, initial here, sign here. And you probably weren't given the time or an honest description of what you were signing and initialing. But what you were signing and initialing was you're signing off that the timeshare company didn't break any of those laws. They did absolutely the right thing. And you understand exactly what you're purchasing. Now, what percentage of timeshare owners actually understand exactly what they're purchasing, and how many of them were under false impressions because the sales rep told them something else or left something out legally the timeshare company can't leave out? A very high percentage, right? But then you have this contract that says they said all those things and you understand all those things. So it creates some issues. There are a lot of timeshare laws. Each state has their own. There's some federal laws that apply to it, both specific to timeshare as well as the way that they account for timeshare, the way that the product is structured. There's just a bevy of laws out there. And that's where consumers really need the help. You could spend hundreds and hundreds of hours researching what laws there are in the jurisdictions that may apply to your timeshare purchase. And even then you could read those, and a lot of them, if you've ever read a statute or a law, a lot of them, the layperson doesn't understand what they're even saying. You'd have to spend time with a dictionary saying, oh, what does that word mean? Holy cow, right? They don't make it easy. Lawyers use, a different language, and they use it to confuse everybody else. And that way you have to use a lawyer, right? It's their little program to make sure we have to hire lawyers, and they get to make a lot of money, right? So you really need a partner that understands the law. Now, your partner could be an attorney. So you really have to understand the basics of the consumer laws, consumer protection laws that are regularly violated by the timeshare company. The timeshare company knows they're violating them, but they take a risk knowing that violating these laws makes them hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. And if they get caught breaking those laws, it's going to cost them tens of millions of dollars, right? So that's a pretty good business. If I can make hundreds of millions of dollars breaking the law and only have to pay tens of millions of dollars in penalties if I get caught, that's a pretty good business. What they tend to do is they tend to look out for consumers that are educated and have some understanding of those laws that may have been broken. Now, not the level of understanding where they're quoting statutes, because that's way too much information, and timeshare companies are going to dig in hard because they're going to think there's a lawyer behind that, and they don't want to let people out that are working with timeshare exit or timeshare lawyers. Okay, so it has to be veiled in certain ways and has to be worded in certain ways. But they know that if complaints accumulate at organizations like the Federal Trade Commission or the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau or state AG offices, that those attorneys whose job it is in an AG's office, an FTC, or the CFPB, their job is to protect consumers. And they know that if there's an accumulation of these claims, of violations of these consumer protection laws, that they're going to have a problem. And I promise you, I don't care how large the corporation is, nobody wants to hear from the Federal Trade Commission, any state attorney general, county attorney general, city attorney general, or the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau that they think there's a problem in the way that they do business and they suspect they're not following consumer protection laws, that is a huge problem for timeshare companies. So they're going to stamp that stuff out as quickly as they can. And that's the key in finding the right timeshare exit partner, is ones who understand the consumer protection laws that are regularly violated by these companies, and they understand the soft underbelly and the pressure points that need to be applied against these very large corporations that turn David into the David that beat Goliath, right? Not David the weakling down the street. The David that can beat Goliath is knowing the information, having the best partners that understand how to finagle that. That's where our experience at Centerstone Group, with hundreds and hundreds of thousands of clients. And I personally have 30 years in the timeshare exit industry. I've got employees with 20 and 30 years in the timeshare industry. I've got 30 years in the timeshare industry. I've had CEOs of some of these large corporations, when I was a vice president with some of these organizations, bring me letters and say, I need you to take care of this, Mark. I need you to make this go away. So I know what needs to be said, and my team knows what needs to be said and how it needs to be said to make these timeshare companies uncomfortable, to get our clients the result that they want, which is getting out of that timeshare.